Hello everyone, welcome to the course on Artificial Intelligence in Industrial and Management Engineering. We have recently been talking about genetic algorithms and we have discussed the individual components of this algorithm. Today we will first try to understand what are the advantages and disadvantages of genetic algorithm. Then finally we will talk about the different kinds of steps by utilizing a flow chart for this algorithm, and then we will see a implementation of facility layout example in the genetic algorithm, right. So let us start. So the major advantages of genetic algorithm is it has global optimization capability. Then it can work on complex or non-differentiable functions. It can handle mixed parameter types. It is naturally parallel compute capable. How we can compute different fitness functions parallelly, right? We have discussed this point. And it supports continuous learning or evolution, right. Now there are limitations as well. So major limitations are, firstly, it requires spatial problem definition. So what does this mean is, whatever your problem is, you need to first encode it into particular fitness function, and you need to define the selection or crossover operators, right. So the problem definition must include the fitness, the encoding of chromosomes, and your operators, right. These are computationally expensive. For larger problems, and it has risk of premature convergence. So you need to tweak your mutation operator wisely, right. And there is no guarantee of optimal solution, but for most of the problems you can easily identify an optimal solution, right. So what are the use cases of genetic algorithm? We can implement these GAs in problems with complex mathematical representation. Okay. And there are some problems whose mathematical representation is not available. So if you can convert your if you can convert your problem definition into the different operators and encodings of genetic algorithm, then you can utilize this algorithm for those problems as well where your actual mathematical representation is not available, right. These algorithms can also be utilized in dynamic environments where conditions change frequently. And examples could be scheduling problems, right, image reconstruction, or hyperparameter tuning. So we have briefly talked about during our machine learning basics lectures about images, how to handle image data, and what is the hyperparameter tuning, right. So we can utilize this genetic algorithms in those spaces as well. Now let us create a basic flowchart for implementing our genetic algorithm. So first we create initial population. Okay. So this is your generation 0. Now we calculate fitness values for candidate solution. After getting the fitness values for each solution, we will apply our selection operator. So we will do selection, then we will implement crossover, after that mutation. Now at this stage after mutation we will get a new generation of candidate solutions, right. So we will again calculate fitness values for new candidate solution. So this is the next generation. And then we will check whether we have found our global optimal solution or not. So this is known as stopping condition. So if we have found our global optimal value, we can say choose the best candidate solution and this will now end. Okay. So but what if we have not yet reached our global optimal value? So what we can do is we can iterate again towards selection, right. So this is an iterative process. That is why we will keep on doing this until and unless we have reached our stopping condition. Usually we will also specify the iteration numbers as well sometimes, so that our stopping condition reaches at a fixed interval of time. or we can utilize the stopping condition as the CPU time that has been covered by the algorithm. So, these are different stopping times. So, at the initial create initial population stage, this is the first stage, right. So, we will create initial population, that is initial set of candidate solution. Since GA utilizes the representation of chromosomes, so this is the set of chromosomes. Okay. Then we calculate fitness. So, at first stage, we evaluate the fitness for initial population. During iteration stage, evaluate the pool of candidates generated and present in particular iteration. So, you need not calculate the fitness values for the candidate solutions that were available in first stage. When your next generation evolves, so whatever the pool of candidate solutions are there, you just calculate the fitness for those chromosomes only, right. Then apply selection. So, it will select candidate chromosomes such that better chromosome has higher possibility of survival. Okay. Then we apply crossover, and this we have discussed. So, at this stage we create newer offsprings based on available candidates after selection. Okay. Next stage is mutation. So, we at this stage we randomly change one or more chromosome. And the information that is available in a random fashion, so that we can generate. This will help in generating newer candidates, right. And usually mutation probability is low. Now, let us talk about the stopping condition, which is the next stage. So this condition will help us in stopping the algorithm, so that we can understand and we can check what are the different types of candidates that we have seen. So we can utilize following stopping conditions, like the maximum number of population generation. So how does this help? This limits the runtime and computing resources taken by the algorithm. So you can see that genetic algorithm can iterate infinitely, right? So you need to stop this. So that is why they can take on the computing resources in infinite minutes. Next could be when there are no improvements left, or when there are no improvements in the last generation. So how can we capture this information? Because we need to stop this algorithm, we need to check what was the information that was generated in the last iteration, right? So to do this, we need to first store the best fitness value at each iteration, right? Then we will compare the best iteration with the current fitness value, current fitness of the candidate. Now if this difference is smaller than a threshold that is governed by the user, then a threshold then we can stop further iterations. We can also stop this algorithm when the current best chromosome meet or exceed the requirements of the objective. Okay, or we can stop this algorithm when the budgeted CPU time, that is the allowed CPU time, has elapsed. Okay. So based on this complete flowchart and its individual steps, we can create a scratch implementation of the genetic algorithm for any kind of problem. But today let us try to understand a basic implementation by utilizing the deep library from the Python ecosystem. So let us open our development environment. So we have already created a code, but to run this code, we need to first create our environment. So let us open our Visual Studio Code in this directory. we can open a terminal inside our Visual Studio Code, and we first need to create our environment. So we can write the command python m v n a I v g a. So this is the new environment that we are trying to create. Okay, so now you can see that there are two items that is present in this directory, and you can also see in the left side of your explorer that there is a new directory that has been created, and it contains all the required subfolders, right. So let us now activate this environment. So this bracketed information shows that now you are working in your own Python environment. Now we need to install different libraries. So this deep library, distributed evolutionary algorithms in Python, is the main library that will utilize the implementation, the pre-specified implementation of genetic algorithms. Okay, so your libraries are installed now, and let us now open our code. So this is a predefined code that we have created for understanding the facility layout problem, for a simple facility layout problem with 7 departments and 7 locations, right. So this is a synthetic data that we have generated for this problem to demonstrate how our simple genetic algorithm implementation works. So at first we will import the random library and the matplotlib library for showing the plots, and this deep is the actual library that we will utilize for genetic algorithm, and we are only importing 3 functions from this library, that is base, creator and tools, right. After that we specified the number of departments, and it is based on the length of this flow matrix. So if you remember, we have already discussed this example for 2 departments and 2 locations in our previous lectures that can be solved by hand, but we stated earlier that as the number of departments and number of locations increases, this kind of problem becomes NP hard. So you need to implement some kind of heuristics or meta heuristics to solve this problem and find an optimal solution. So to do that, we have specified a number of departments and the locations, right. After that, we are creating an evaluate function, which is nothing but the fitness function that we were talking about in the individual steps of genetic algorithm. So initial cost is 0, and once we keep on doing the iterations by utilizing the for loop in number of departments and number of departments, we are utilizing the nested loop here, and then we will create the cost for each combination, right. And this function will return not just the evaluated cost, but the inverted cost. Why? Because we need to minimize the cost, but GAs usually maximize this cost, right. So that is why we are tweaking this cost function here. Next, we are setting up our genetic algorithm by utilizing these 3 functions that we have imported from the deep library. So it is creator, base and tools. After that, we will start running our genetic algorithm. So this is the main function. It will first initialize the populations, the number of generations that means the number of iterations that we are going to look forward for finding the solution. And then we have created the best fitness list, an empty list. Why? Because we have told you earlier that one of the stopping condition could be that what is the fitness value we have reached till now, and if it is better than the fitness values that we have recorded until this generation, then we can identify that candidate solution. So we require the best fitness value and we need to keep a track of that, right? So next we started evaluating the initial population and we have created our candidate solutions here. The next stage was selection. So at the stage of selection we are utilizing the roulette wheel function, which we have already discussed, which is based on the probabilities of the candidate solutions, right? After generating the selections, we will do crossovers and mutations, okay? And this is done in these iterations of for loop for two childs from the different offsprings variables that we have created. Once we get the new individuals, we will again iterate the process for finding the fitness values and then searching for the candidate solutions that have the best fitness values, right? And this will finally give the results with the best cost that we have reached. At last, we are creating a convergence plot utilizing the matplotlib library, and it will plot the best fitness that was the initially empty list for us, so that we can identify what was the variations that has been evolved here. Okay. So, let us now run this script, Python script into our system. So, we can write Python facility ga.py. So, initially we are seeing this roulette wheel because we have written in our script that once the selection starts, we first need to see what is the actual individual probabilities that gets assigned to the candidate solution. So, you can close this. Now, this another figure appears, which is the final candidate convergence of the candidate solutions. So, our candidate solutions moved something like this, and we have specified that we will only run this code for 100 generations, that means 100 iterations. So, that is why for each generation there is a point showing on the y axis, right. So, the final best solution for the assignment of 7 departments to 7 location is this one, and the cost associated is 3700. So, this is the minimum cost, but this may not be the global optimal value. The cost may get reduced if you run this another time, right. So, these kind of algorithms will work for finding a better solution, but they may or may not give the best solution. Okay. So, at this point we would like to stop, and this completes our second part of the course, which covered uh, basic basic concepts of the machine learning. Then we moved towards natural language processing and we talked about various algorithms. After that we talked about the foundational concepts of industrial engineering, that is scheduling and concepts like facility layout problems. And finally, in this week we have demonstrated a working example of facility example by utilizing genetic algorithms. Thank you.